Don't let them take you to the bed beside window 6. Those were the last words Mrs. Ugonna whispered before she passed. The nurse had rolled her bed out of the emergency ward just 10 minutes earlier. She was screaming, clutching her chest, begging not to be taken near that window. "Please, not there," she cried, her voice cracked like dry firewood. "That's where they come for you in your sleep. Please. I have children." The new intern nurse, still on her first week, paused. But the matron backed. "Shift her there, Joa. Bed 6 is empty. We can't be superstitious in this place." 3 hours later, Mrs. Ugonna stopped breathing. No cardiac arrest. No seizure. No physical sign. Just wide, stiff eyes staring out the window. Her fingers clutched her bedsheet like she fought something. Something no one else saw. A strange mist had been rising from the oxygen pipe that night. And the young intern, Why, swore she saw something moving beneath the doctor's coat as he walked out. Something long and black that slithered across the floor before fading beneath the curtain. Nobody believed her. Until 2 more patients died within a week. And every single one of them had been wheeled to window 6. You're watching African Tales B-Comedy. Please like, share, subscribe, and let's dive in. Juliet never believed in anything strange. She was a 26-year-old call center agent. Smart, well-spoken, with a natural beauty that didn't need makeup to glow. She lived alone in a clean 1-bedroom apartment in Calabar City and loved her job. That Thursday morning, she woke up with a sharp pain in her lower abdomen. Nothing too serious, she thought. Maybe something she ate. Maybe her period was coming. She took a warm shower, skipped breakfast, and headed out to the office. But the pain grew worse. By 12:10 p.m., she was sweating at her desk, holding her side. "Babe, you okay?" her colleague Anita asked. "I don't know. I feel like something is twisting inside me." Anita didn't waste time. "Stand up. We're going to the hospital." They drove straight to the nearest private hospital. It looked clean. White walls. Glass doors. Receptionists smiling behind their desks. A fresh scent of disinfectant. Juliet was relieved. She registered her name, paid the card fee, and waited. She didn't notice the little things, like how the nurse looked at her stomach too long, or how another nurse whispered to the matron after reading her name, or how the doctor didn't make eye contact when she walked in. She didn't notice these things until it was too late. Juliet sat on the metal hospital bed, shivering slightly in her jeans and blouse. The nurse walked in, her shoes clicking. She was young, with a long ponytail and perfectly polished nails. Her name tag read, Nurse Grace. "You'll need to relax," Nurse Grace said. "The doctor wants us to take blood samples." "Is it necessary?" "I just have stomach pain. We have to rule things out." Juliet nodded. The nurse tied the tourniquet, rubbed alcohol on her arm, and inserted the needle. But as the blood flowed, Juliet noticed something odd. The syringe had 2 chambers, one collecting blood, the other releasing something faintly cloudy back into her. "Wait, what is that?" Nurse Grace smiled too quickly. "It's just a pressure equalizer. Don't worry." Juliet wanted to speak, but her tongue felt heavy. Her vision blurred. The room spun. She slumped sideways. The last thing she saw was a long, dark shadow sliding out from under the bed. Juliet woke up in a different room. There were 6 beds. 4 had patients. 2 were empty. The room was cold. No windows. Just a single ceiling fan turning slowly. She tried to sit up, but her hands were strapped lightly to the bed. "What is this?" "Hello. Hello." A woman on the next bed turned to her. "Don't struggle too much," she whispered. "They say it's for your own safety." "Who are you? What is this place?" "They call it Observation Wing. But most people here never go home." Juliet's heart pounded. "Why? What are they doing to us?" The woman didn't answer. She only lifted her hospital gown slightly. And Juliet gasped. There were small fang-like marks in a circle around her navel. Then the door opened. And that same doctor from earlier walked in, smiling, holding a syringe. And behind him, just behind his white coat, Juliet saw the unmistakable tail of a serpent curl and disappear beneath his stethoscope. And that was the last thing Juliet remembered. She didn't sleep that night. The lights in the observation wing were never completely off. They kept a sickly yellow glow hanging over the room like a headache. Somewhere outside, a buzzer kept beeping. She couldn't tell what for. At 2:46 a.m., the woman in bed 3 began to mutter in her sleep. Low at first, then louder. He's here. He's here. Not me again. Not tonight. Juliet sat up, still dizzy. Her arms were now free. She tiptoed across the room to the woman. "Madam, who is here?" The woman didn't respond. Her eyes were open now, but she wasn't seeing Juliet. She was looking past her, at the window. There was only one window in the room. Small, covered in mesh. But just beneath it was an empty bed. Bed 6. That was the first time Juliet noticed the beds weren't numbered the same way as the general ward. This one had only a faint chalk marking near the headboard, 6. She turned to look out the window, and froze. There was a figure on the other side. It wasn't standing. It was floating. Gray skin, hollow black eyes, elongated fingers with claw-like nails that scratched the glass slowly, not to break it, just enough to let whoever watched know. "I see you." Juliet staggered backward, her scream caught in her throat. The woman in bed 3 started to convulse. The machines began beeping wildly. The door flew open. Nurse Grace entered, calmly. She looked directly at Juliet and said, "You shouldn't be out of bed. You're not strong yet. Let us help you rest." Behind her, that same doctor appeared. Only now, his coat was unbuttoned. Juliet saw it. Clearly this time. Something black and scaled was wrapped around his torso, disappearing into his back like it had grown from him. He smiled. "We just want to observe you. Juliet, you're very special." She backed into the wall, eyes darting. The window. The beds. The woman now foaming at the mouth. Juliet did the only thing she could. She fainted. Juliet woke up on a stretcher. This time, in a corridor. Her wrists were strapped again, tighter. But the hallway was different. There were no signs, no windows, just white walls and buzzing fluorescent lights. She lay still, her heart thudding. 2 nurses were pushing her. They hadn't noticed she was awake. They were talking in hushed tones. This one's still fresh. It's like they marked them somehow. She'll last a few more days. Especially if they avoid the spine. I heard the last one bled too fast. That's why the doctor was angry. Said her blood wasn't clean enough. Juliet blinked slowly, her lashes hiding her eyes. They stopped outside a thick gray door. A keypad. One of the nurses entered a code. Inside was a room stacked with metal filing drawers, thousands of them, stretching from floor to ceiling. They rolled her inside. She peeked again. There were no patients here. Just boxes. Charts. Papers. Then she saw it. A wall covered in Polaroid photos. All faces. All young. Most smiling. Beneath each photo, there was a note. Harvested, 6 vials. Failed, organ damage. Pending, window 6. Taken, left without soul. Juliet's stomach turned. She knew then, this wasn't just some hospital. This was a lab. A ritual ground. A place where the system masks evil with care. One of the nurses placed a folder into a cabinet labeled Bloodline Viables. She paused. Read aloud. Juliet Mediong. O+ blood. 0 complications. Virgin lineage. Mother, deceased. Father, unknown. Recommended. Full extraction. Window 6. Juliet gasped. The nurse turned. Saw her eyes open. But before she could scream, Juliet grabbed the 4-pole beside the stretcher and slammed it into the nurse's face. Blood splashed the cabinet. The other nurse screamed. Juliet jumped off the stretcher, dizzy, but desperate. She grabbed a random file from the shelf and ran. She didn't know how long she ran. Down flights of stairs. Through dim hallways. Past empty patient wards with flickering lights. Until she found herself in what looked like a storage room. She locked the door behind her. Sat on the cold tile. Breathed. Opened the file. Inside were pages of medical reports, but they weren't hers. They belonged to a boy. Name, Daniel Obi. Age, 7. Status, in progress. Note, responds to serpent induction. Vein rich. Already dreaming. Juliet's hands shook. Then she heard it. A soft knock. From inside the closet. She stood slowly. Approached. Opened it. And there, curled in a fetal position, was a little boy. His eyes were red from crying. He had a fresh drip still in his hand. His gown had the hospital logo. But his back had markings, like scales. Growing. Who are you? Juliet whispered. The boy looked at her. His lips trembled. They said if I sleep, I won't wake up again. So I hide here every night. Juliet knelt. Daniel, we need to get out. Together. She helped him stand. As she held his hand, she noticed. His blood was warm. Too warm. And the faint outline of a snake symbol pulsed under his skin. The hospital didn't just harvest blood. They implanted something. Suddenly, an alarm rang through the hallway. Red light. Sirens. Observation breach. Unauthorized exit. Window 6 patient is loose. Juliet froze. They were coming. Not just nurses. Not just doctors. But the ones behind the curtains. The ones who fed on darkness. And they were hunting. Juliet held Daniel's hand tightly as they crept through the dim corridor. Every door they passed had a label, but none of them made sense. Genetic storage. Vein cultivation. Window 6, do not enter. She didn't want to know what was inside. The red alarm lights were still blinking. Somewhere far behind, voices echoed. Footsteps. Shouting. Then silence. Juliet stopped. She noticed something odd. All the nurses wore white. But the ones chasing them now wore black. Daniel, listen, she whispered, crouching beside him. Do you know where the exit is? He nodded slowly. There's a door near the ambulance garage. That's where they take the empty people. Empty people. The ones they use too much. The ones who don't scream anymore. Juliet blinked back tears. She pulled him forward and started running. Twice, they had to hide behind gurneys. Once, they heard a sound, like something dragging metal claws across the floor. Finally, they reached a large service door. Juliet tried the handle, locked. But Daniel pointed at a side window. Juliet climbed on a barrel and helped Daniel up first. Then she pulled herself through. The window led out into the back of the hospital compound. It was dark, cold, quiet. Beyond the fence, she saw streetlights, taxis, real life. She wanted to scream for help, but something inside warned her. Not yet. She tied her scarf around Daniel's arms to keep him warm and ran, barefoot, until they reached the roadside. A young man on a bike slowed down. Sister, you day okay? Please, Juliet said, her voice cracked. Please just take us away from here. Anywhere. Please. The man nodded, confused but concerned. He looked at Daniel, then at Juliet's hospital gown. Hold on tight. And just like that, they were gone. Behind them, the hospital lights returned to normal. The sirens stopped. And by morning, the hospital would deny that Juliet or Daniel were ever there. They'd say it was a mistake. A mix-up. Maybe trauma. Delusion. But Juliet knew the truth. And now, she had to warn the world. Dr. Martins was everything you'd want in a doctor. Soft-spoken. Handsome. Neatly groomed. Always smiling. He wore perfectly ironed scrubs and a stethoscope that seemed more like a crown than a tool. Patients trusted him. Nurses respected him. The hospital even used his photo in a billboard. Your care is our calling, the ad said. Only the matron knew he never ate food in the staff room. Only the files knew he had no record of internship or residency. And only the floor in room 4 knew how many times he dragged patients out at midnight. One of those patients was Angela, a 34-year-old woman pregnant with twins. She came in for regular antenatal. The receptionist smiled. The nurse offered water. Dr. Martins greeted her like an old friend. Welcome, madam. Your babies are already lucky. They have a beautiful mother. Angela laughed shyly. She didn't notice the mark on the base of his neck, a dark, faintly glowing scar that pulsed every few seconds. After her scan, the nurse told her the babies looked fine. But Dr. Martins said something else. "Let's just keep you for overnight observation. Just to be sure. You'll be home by morning." Angela agreed. That night, her husband called. She sounded tired. Faint. "I'm fine, baby. Just tired." They said one more scan in the morning. He called again at 10 p.m., no answer. By morning, Angela had changed. Her eyes looked distant. Her stomach had new stitches, but no report explained why. She went home, but within a month, she miscarried. No bleeding. No signs. She simply woke up one day, and the babies were gone. When her husband rushed her back to the hospital, Dr. Martins met them at the reception. Calm. Smiling. "Ah, sir. Madam didn't tell you? The scan showed no viable pregnancy. She was never carrying twins." "What?" "We saw them. We named them. Sometimes the body tricks the mind. It happens." He handed over a discharge file. It looked clean. Signed. Perfect. But Angela, she never spoke again. She sat in silence for months, drawing snakes with crowns on the walls of her bedroom. Over and over. Her family said it was grief. But Juliet, now hiding in another state, saw the newspaper post. And she knew. Angela wasn't crazy. She was one of many. Ibrahim was an Uber driver. Strong. Healthy. A father of two. He believed in giving back to the community. One Saturday, after dropping a passenger, he saw a poster outside the same hospital. Urgent blood donation needed. Save a life. He smiled. Walked in. The nurses were polite. The form was short. They offered him malt and biscuits after taking 3 pints. He felt a little dizzy, but they reassured him. "It's nothing. Just rest. You're a hero." They kept him for observation, then said he could leave in the evening. But that evening, a young nurse walked into his room, smiled, checked his pulse, injected a vitamin booster. He passed out. When he woke up, it was night. The room was dark. He tried to stand, but his legs buckled. There was a sharp pain near his lower back. He touched it. Bandages. Confused, he hobbled out to the hallway, but everything was silent. He made it to the gate and collapsed. A security man from a company close to the hospital saw him and panicked. He was rushed to a different hospital nearby. The scans revealed something terrifying. One of his kidneys was missing. No scars. No signed consent. No documents. He'd walked into a hospital to donate blood. They took his kidney. His file. Gone. And when Juliet saw his case reported on a local blog, she knew the pattern and she was going to do everything possible to expose the hospital. Smiles. Clean hallways. Professional tone. But something evil beneath the walls. They were selecting people. Testing them. Harvesting them. Marking them. Sometimes what they took was blood. Sometimes it was babies. Sometimes it was souls. And still, the hospital ran every day. Still smiling. Still taking new patients. Still using bed 6 by the window. The waiting room was full on a particular Wednesday morning. A baby cried in one corner. A man coughed blood in another. A woman in a hijab clutched her chest and whispered prayers. But the receptionist was busy scrolling through her phone. Another nurse leaned on the wall, gossiping about a colleague's wedding. Outside, a taxi screeched to a stop. A teenage boy jumped out, holding his older brother who was unconscious. "Help! Please help me." He was stabbed, his bleeding. The nurses turned lazily. "Go and fill form," the receptionist muttered. "Please. He can't breathe." "Form first." The boy dropped to his knees, crying. "He's going to die. Please do something." The nurse sighed and stood up, dragging a wheelchair like it was a burden. By the time they wheeled him in, the guy's lips had turned blue. He died in the corridor. They covered him with a sheet, dragged the body aside, and mopped the floor. Then the receptionist whispered to the nurse, "Abeg, remove his name from register. Say he was brought in dead." Outside, the teenage boy sat by the gate, hugging himself. muttering, "We were only 2 boys. He protected me my whole life. And now." But inside the hospital, music played from a Bluetooth speaker. A birthday cake sat in the nurse's lounge. And then came Maria. She was 31, mother of 3, expecting her 4th. Strong, humble, kind. She'd come in at 3 a.m. with intense contractions. Her husband drove in barefoot. "Please help us," he begged. "She's in labor." The nurse at the maternity reception rolled her eyes. "She's still talking? Then she's not ready." "But her water broke. Look. Water can break and the baby still no come. Go sit." They were told to wait in the hallway. Maria sat on a wooden bench, crying. Sweat poured down her face. Her wrapper soaked in fluid. Her hands trembled. She looked up and whispered, "God, please. Not today. Let my baby live." By 4:30 a.m., she was barely conscious. Her husband ran in, yelling, "She's bleeding. Something's wrong." The matron appeared, clearly annoyed. "Where's your card?" "Card? She's dying." They finally wheeled her in. No one explained anything. No doctor came. They said it's early labor and walked out. By sunrise, she was gone. The baby too. The cause? Uterine rupture. A known emergency. Treatable. Preventable. They said she came in late. They said they tried. But her husband knew the truth. He stood by the bed, holding her cold hand. He wept so hard the nurses had to ask him to leave. Their 3 children waited outside. Later, he sued the hospital. But in court, the hospital brought witnesses. Fake nurses. Edited files. Forged time logs. They said Maria had complications before she arrived. They painted the husband as emotional and unstable. The judge dismissed the case. Outside, the husband knelt on the court steps and cried. My wife begged them. She begged, and they left her to die. Juliet, now watching from a safe house, read the case online. She saved it to her growing folder. Truth the world needs to see. Juliet hadn't slept in 2 nights. Her phone battery was low. The tiny hotel room she shared with Daniel was dark and stuffy. But her laptop glowed with truth. She had collected 7 testimonies, each one more terrifying than the last. A diabetic woman admitted for routine insulin checks. Woke up to find both her legs amputated. A little girl brought in for malaria. Was found dead with foam in her mouth and claw marks on her neck. A pregnant woman in labor, who screamed for help for 6 hours before a nurse finally checked her. The baby had been trying to come out, but the umbilical cord was wrapped around its neck. It died in the womb. And still, the nurse told the mother's sister, "You people like drama. Not every labor must end in a child." Juliet shook as she typed. The problem isn't just the evil. It's the silence. The cover-ups. The fake records. The fake smiles. The way the hospital makes you feel crazy for asking questions. She opened a fake Facebook account and started sharing the stories. Within 3 hours, she had 300 comments. I lost my sister in that hospital too. They said my mother had stroke but didn't treat her until she died. This same hospital. They gave me wrong blood type during surgery. You're not lying. That place is cursed. I still see things in my sleep. But then, her account was banned. The page was deleted. And someone sent her a text. Stop before we stop you. Juliet looked at Daniel, asleep beside her. He twitched in his sleep, whispering, "They're coming again." She grabbed her bag, unplugged her laptop, and decided it was time to go to the press. But she didn't know. The hospital owned one of the TV stations, sponsored another, and had 2 journalists on their monthly payroll. The doctors met once a month, always after midnight, always in a different hospital. This time, the meeting was in an abandoned surgical theater. The air was thick with incense smoke. The floor had strange chalk symbols drawn in a circle. 12 chairs. 12 doctors. All dressed in dark green robes. And in the center of the room stood Dr. Martins, holding a silver bowl filled with thick, dark blood. "The cycle has begun," he said. "The window has taken 6 this month. We need 6 more before the solstice." Another doctor stood, Older, bald, trembling slightly. But some are starting to ask questions. We've lost 3 interns. 1 nurse fled to Ghana. Dr. Martins turned slowly. Then we replaced them. But there's a girl, another whispered. The one who escaped. The one who saw. She's gathering evidence. Dr. Martins smiled. Slowly. Juliet, yes. She thinks she's safe. But what she doesn't know is that we are in every hospital, every lab, every ward. He dipped his fingers into the bowl, then licked the blood. She's not just exposing us. She's awakening what we buried long ago. If she continues, the gates will open faster than we planned. The other doctors murmured in unease. A candle blew out on its own. From the shadows, a low hiss echoed through the theater. A serpent, massive, black, eyeless, slid across the floor and wrapped itself around Dr. Martin's leg. He didn't flinch. Prepare the next harvest, he whispered. And find Juliet. Juliet sat in a small media room with an undercover reporter named Chica, the only one who agreed to listen. They had recorded 12 patient testimonies, collected stolen files, even obtained hidden footage from a nurse who escaped. But Chica warned her. They are watching the internet. Every upload will be blocked. You need someone inside to speak. Juliet nodded. That was when a message came through. A nurse from another branch had reached out. Her name was Nurse Aloho. She had a story. 3 weeks earlier, at the medical center, a woman named Abigail went into labor. Strong. Full term. No complications. She was admitted around 6 p.m. By 8 p.m., her contractions intensified. But the nurse in charge, Mercy, was on TikTok. Another nurse, Bola, said she had done her own, and it wasn't that bad. They ignored Abigail. Her husband stood outside the ward, begging to be let in. At 9:20 p.m., Abigail was screaming, drenched in sweat, barely able to speak. Still, no one came. By 10:05 p.m., the screaming stopped. A young intern rushed in and found her lying still. The baby was half out. But something was wrong. The head was blue. They delivered the baby, lifeless. No cry. No movement. Abigail never regained consciousness. She died before sunrise. When her husband was told, he broke down in the reception, weeping in front of patients, nurses, cleaners. She was healthy. The baby was strong. You let her die. He sued. He brought media. But the hospital produced a fake chart, claimed Abigail had blood pressure issues, and had been warned not to get pregnant again. We advised termination. The hospital lied. He lost the case. Nurse Aloho resigned after that night. She couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. She found Juliet. Gave her voice recordings. And Juliet added them to her drive, now renamed The Unseen Hospital. Juliet sat on a bench at a quiet train station in Benin. Daniel, now healthier, sat beside her, drawing quietly in a sketchbook. He'd started drawing the hospital. The creatures. The man with the forked tongue. Juliet was tired. But she had one goal. To go public. Loudly. In a way they couldn't delete. That evening, another testimony came in. A man had donated blood for his daughter's emergency transfusion. She was 9. Sickle cell crisis. Needed urgent help. He watched as the nurses took his blood. Watched them label it. Watched them carry it. But 20 minutes later, the doctor told him, "We're sorry. She didn't make it." He was shocked. But she was alive. You said she was stable. She was laughing with me. No answers. He demanded to see the file. Refused. 2 weeks later, another patient contacted him. Their own child had received a transfusion and developed sudden organ swelling. Turns out, the blood type was not a match. The blood given to the second child had his name on it. Somewhere along the line, the blood had been switched. And now, 2 children were dead. Juliet listened to the father's voice note that night. He cried halfway through. "I gave them my blood. I gave them my daughter. And they gave me nothing but death." She looked at Daniel. She looked at her laptop. And she posted a single video on dark web forums, closed groups, Telegram threads. Her face visible. Her voice clear. Her story raw. My name is Juliet Emediong. I was once a patient. I saw what happens behind the curtains. I escaped. But not everyone does. If you've ever lost someone suddenly in a hospital, and the story didn't make sense, this message is for you. There is a network, a system, a cult, and I'm here to show the world what they've done. It was uploaded at 2:17 a.m. By 5:00 a.m. Her hotel room had been broken into. Her laptop smashed. Her phone gone. Daniel missing. On the wall, in red ink, they wrote, "The window is open." Juliet's scream echoed through the hotel corridor. She dropped to her knees in front of the bed where Daniel had been sleeping just hours ago. The covers were rumpled. His sketchpad lay on the floor, open to a drawing he hadn't finished. It showed a woman with long arms and red eyes, carrying a child down a dark hallway. Juliet's heart pounded. She searched every corner of the room. The tiny bathroom, the wardrobe, the hallway, the reception. "Please, have you seen a boy? 8 years old. His name is Daniel. He was just here." The hotel staff looked confused. "You checked in alone, madam." "What?" "No, check your CCTV, please." But the manager shook his head. "Our camera system has been down for 2 weeks." Juliet's knees buckled. That was when she saw it. On the mirror, written in the same red ink they'd used before. "You opened the window. Now something must pass through." She ran outside, barefoot, crying, shaking, heart in her throat. She didn't care about exposing the cult anymore. She didn't care about her files or videos. She just wanted Daniel back. But Daniel wasn't just missing. He had been taken. And the ones who took him weren't all human anymore. Juliet didn't know where to go. She didn't have a phone. Her laptop had been destroyed. She hadn't eaten in 24 hours. But she remembered something. A man had emailed her anonymously 3 weeks ago. Said he had once worked with Dr. Martins. Said he knew what the blood was for. He never gave a name. Only a time and location to meet. She'd ignored him then. Now she had no choice. She took a local bus to the address, a broken bungalow on the outskirts of a dusty town in Delta State. She knocked once, twice. Then the door opened. A tall, lean man stood there. Mid-50s. Gray hair. Heavy eyes. He looked like someone who had seen too much and spoken too little. "Juliet," he said softly. "Come in before they see you." His name was Dr. Chidiabear. He had been one of the founding surgeons of the Harvesting Circle, the cult hiding behind hospital doors. We started with animals, testing how long organs could live outside the body, then moved to prisoners, then patients with no families, then everyone. He explained how hospitals were selected, how each hospital had a window, a bed assigned for extraction, and how window 6 was always used for one thing: spiritual filtration. That's where they draw the energy, where the serpent rests. Juliet asked him, trembling, "Why did you leave?" He paused, then pulled up his shirt. His back had been burned in a circular pattern, like a branding, like a warning. "I refused to harvest a child," he whispered. "They punished me, but I escaped." Juliet's eyes widened. "Daniel, they've taken him." Dr. Chidiabear stood up. "Then we'll bring him back. But we must first show the world who these people really are." He handed her a flash drive. "This is everything. Patient logs, photos, recordings, even a video of one of their midnight rituals. It's dangerous, but if we die, at least the truth won't." Juliet and Dr. Chidiabear stayed off-grid for days, plotting how to leak the evidence. But in that time, more lives were lost. One of them was Sandra, 29, married, pregnant with twins. She had gone to the hospital for routine monitoring. Healthy, happy. Her husband even took a selfie with her in the hospital bed that morning. "2 boys," she had said. "Strong ones. They kick when you play music." At 11:40 a.m., Sandra called her husband. They said the baby's hearts are fast. They are monitoring it. By 2 p.m., she called again. "Babe, I've been here since morning. Nobody has checked me again." Her husband rushed down, furious. He asked the nurse. Why hasn't anyone attended to her? The nurse yawned. Doctor is busy. Doing what? We've got surgery upstairs. She'll be fine. But Sandra wasn't fine. By 4 p.m., her stomach had stopped moving. Her eyes were glassy. Her lips pale. They wheeled her into emergency care, but it was too late. The babies were gone. Sandra slipped into a coma from blood loss. She never woke up. The hospital blamed preeclampsia, blamed her nutrition, blamed the husband for being aggressive. The man stood outside the hospital for hours, hugging the tiny baby clothes he had brought. When the hospital's spokesperson held a press conference, they said, "These things happen in medicine. We did our best." But Juliet saw the name on Sandra's file. W6 candidate. Marked, twins. The babies weren't lost. They were taken. Juliet knew it now. And she had one mission left. Break the story. Bring Daniel back. Burn the cult down. The 15th Annual African Medical Ethics Summit was the biggest of its kind. Doctors, surgeons, ministers, international guests. A hall glowing with white coats, power suits, TV cameras, and fine wine. And among them, Dr. Martens. Smiling, charming, handshaking. He stood on the main stage, hailed as a hero of emergency medicine. His topic, rethinking patient-centered care in sub-Saharan Africa. Irony, dipped in blood. Juliet and Dr. Chidiabo sat 3 rows from the back. They were disguised. Wig, makeup, ID cards borrowed from a sympathetic nurse. In Juliet's bag was the flash drive. In her heart, the beating fear of what might happen if this didn't work. She had prepared the leak. A video file that contained ritual footage from the underground cult, patient files signed by Dr. Martens, voice notes from whistleblowers, a file titled Windows 6 Report. All of it scheduled to auto-upload at 4:45 p.m., just as Dr. Martens would be handed the Doctor of the Year award. They had connected a hacked laptop backstage to the projector. Once he stepped up, the screen would switch, and the truth would finally burn through the lies. The time was 4:41 p.m. Dr. Martens stood beside the announcer, pretending to look surprised, smiling that gentle, deceiving smile. And now, the host said, for his remarkable contribution to patient recovery protocols, we present. Juliet tightened her grip on the trigger in her pocket. One click. Just one. 4:42 p.m. Chidiabo whispered, "It's time." Juliet stood up, walked slowly down the aisle toward the podium. One of the guards moved. She held up her guest pass. 4:43 p.m. Her fingers trembled as she reached into her coat to click the button that would send everything, every file, every face, every evil deed, to the world. 4:44 p.m. She was just 8 steps from the stage. Dr. Martens looked at her, smiled, but his eyes froze. Not with fear, but with recognition. Juliet clicked the trigger. A green light blinked. The projector screen blinked. Everything paused. 4:45 p.m. The host began to speak. Let's give a thunderous applause to. The screen flashed black. Then, Windows 6 file, confidential. It had begun. Gasps echoed across the hall. But then, the screen glitched. Words blurred. The screen went white. Then, system error. Unauthorized file deleted. Juliet turned. Her laptop, hidden backstage, was smoking. Someone had found it. Dr. Chidiabo looked around in panic. No. Security moved in. Suddenly, all the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. And in the silence, a voice echoed through the loudspeakers. You opened the window, now something must pass through. Screams. People running. Juliet tried to run back up the aisle, but a hand grabbed her mouth from behind. SHHHHH. She kicked. Fought. But it was too late. They dragged her into the dark side exit. No one saw. No one knew. Dr. Chidiabo screamed her name. But she was gone. 2 hours later, light returned. The projector was damaged, they said. A technical glitch, they said. The announcer laughed nervously. Apologies for the interruption. Now, where were we? Dr. Martens stepped back on stage. Not a wrinkle on his coat. Not a drop of sweat. And as the applause resumed, he adjusted his microphone and said, "Let's not let a minor technical issue distract us from why we're here. Today is about healing. Today is about hope. And above all, today is about trust." The audience stood. They clapped. And on the big screen behind him, his smiling photo returned. Juliet's name was never mentioned. Chidiabo disappeared. And the news reported. Rumor of sabotage attempt at medical conference. No arrests made. No injuries reported. But in a Telegram group the next morning, a voice note was leaked. Juliet's voice. She was breathing hard. She whispered, "If this reaches you, I'm still alive. They are bigger than you think. But I'm not stopping. Not until the window is broken forever." Some hospitals heal the body. But some hospitals feed on the soul. What if everything we thought was negligence? Was deliberate? What if the system isn't broken? What if it was built this way? Juliet got close, too close. And now, she's missing. Daniel is still out there. And the smiling doctor. Still saving lives, by day or so to say. This is not just a story. It's a mirror. To every life lost. Every cry ignored. Every file erased. Part 2 is coming. And when it does, the window will open wider. Have you ever lost someone in a hospital and the explanation made no sense? Or were you ever a patient who felt something was wrong, but no one believed you? Tell your story in the comments. Share this video, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss part 2.